Welcome to the Rose Show podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Rose Show. Today I'm here with Raychel King, founder and CEO of SPHYNX Brand. Of physical and digital art, and you're on a mission to enlighten and spread awareness and understanding of these amazing technologies. Thank you so much for joining me here today as we talk about blockchain, NFTs, Web3, Bitcoin, and your SPHYNX brand. So how you doing today, Raychel?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. I'm truly honored to have you here. And I love your little friend over there. I'm so happy he's here to join us as well. So let's begin.
He's here to correct me if I mess up in any way.
Wonderful. He's so sweet. So let's begin. I want to begin with your background. Very impressive. You are a Duke University alumni, and you also spent some time with Goldman Sachs. If you could please tell us how it all began. What did you study at Duke?
Well, at Duke, I was a history major, actually. And Goldman Sachs I never thought about going into investment banking until my senior year, when I realized that that was the place to be, sort of amongst, us there. Duke turned out to be kind of like where they do a lot of recruiting at these schools like Duke and Harvard and Stanford. And so once I found out about it, I started to inquire about it, and I realized that I didn't really need to be an econ major or anything, and that you really kind of learn as you go, and they really care about a good fit. And then, of course, when they did the on-campus recruiting, I found out that, most people, most of the graduates try to get an investment banking analyst position. However, because I like to make my life much more difficult and stressful, I decided, when I found out about this other program that they have, which at the time, I don't know if they've increased the number since, but at the time, Goldman hired 2 people per year, 2 analysts directly in the private equity group. So basically, we bypassed the investment banking analyst years. And each year, there were only 2 among the entire country. And when I found out about that, I said, oh, that's the hardest thing to get into. I've got to try to get into that, because again, I try to make my life as hard as possible. And so I did the interviews, and what do you know? I got that position. So I actually was not an investment banking analyst, though often I say, when I talk about my background at Goldman, I do say investment banking because that's what people know best. But I was really an analyst in the private equity group. And it was really phenomenal, and I got to learn a lot. But it was also great because I represented Duke because I was one of the 2 students who was chosen that year. And they have a very rigorous interview process. And and I learned a lot. And it was one of those instances where it was kind of the first time where I heard, you really shouldn't do that because you're not an econ major. And that kind of that's kind of been a running theme for me, and I think I can credit that to both of my parents, where they're quite successful in their own fields, but also I like to test things out on my own, and it's okay if I end up not being able to do something, but I like to figure that out on my own. And I'm not worried about not being able to do something or failing. I just would rather find out on my own. And so when I heard that, I said, well, well, let me see if I have to be an econ major to do this. And I did the interviews, and I passed first round interviews, went to second round, and past second round, they fly me to New York, and okay. And then I got the job, and I was just like, oh, okay. So, you know, there was that, but it was a really great experience, and I learned a lot.
Wow, amazing story, Raychel. I have to say, I give credit to your mindset, and that's something we're going to talk about a little later in the show, but I have to comment on that accepting mistakes as part of the process and being okay with failing. That is amazing. And that's part of this whole growth mindset that we're going to talk about, because mistakes are how we learn, and they're part of the process. And there's a self-made billionaire, Sarah Blakely, that she actually mentioned in an interview once that her father at the dinner table in the evening would say to her, what did you fail at today? So I think that mindset, right? Isn't that beautiful? And it's just allowing those failures to happen. And that's part of the process, and accepting that. And it's about, they say success is about picking yourself up after falling down, because we all fall down, but it's how quickly you can recover from those falls that really measure your success. And I have to say, I'm amazed that you had that mindset at such a young age. And were you always like that, Raychel? Were you like that as a child, or is this something you learned from your parents?
I was always like that as a child, and I believe it's something I learned as from my parents, who are both quite driven and who do quite well. You know, my mother's a surgeon, and my dad is in business, but yeah, they kind of they've been told no before, and they'd never accepted it. But yeah, even as a kid, I remember, you know, even, you know, I remember in the 7th grade, a teacher not being fair to me, and I thought to myself, that's not right. And I remember telling my mother, and the next day he apologized to me. And I'm not saying that in any sort of like, oh, that was so great, but I just felt like, you know, sometimes it's like, you shouldn't be rude. You shouldn't be like, there's no need to be like dramatic in the moment, but you could sort of just, I always had this sense of like, just because somebody says something doesn't make it so, and let me go investigate. So I always had that mindset.
Oh, so you're a thinker. That's key. And, you know, nowadays, and there's quite a few people that talk about this, one of the greatest challenges we face is all these echo chambers and filter bubbles and groupthink. So what we're losing, it seems to be the thinking skills. So thinking is key, and questioning everything. And just because someone says something, doesn't make it true. And I love that you've had that since you were a child. And that's a true special quality that we can all admire and learn from. And hopefully we can spread awareness of people separating the impulse from the response. It's like there's like that system 2 thinking. You know, when things happen to us, it's about how we react. And by giving ourselves time before we do that reaction, that helps us put us back into that system 2 thinking mode, where it's more controlled and we think through our response instead of lashing out at someone. And, you know, in trading or in anything in life, you know, it's about not making that automatic association. And you know, we're all human. We all have emotions, but it's how we react that makes a difference. So that's wonderful that you stopped and you questioned and you remember that from 7th grade.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
that's great. Raychel, how many years did you spend at Goldman Sachs?
2 years. I did the analyst program there, and then I basically, what happened was 9/11 happened. And I spent some more time in New York. I thought about going to med school, and what happened was I decided to come back to Los Angeles, and I started a business here that did quite well, that exported medical devices from the United States to other countries, and predominantly African countries. And then I was able to do some philanthropic work. So what I did essentially was I started my own nonprofit. So it was a small nonprofit at the time. And then I met an individual who's also running a nonprofit, who was a very well-known Hollywood attorney. And he said, well, why don't we just merge our thing? You know, I have unlimited funds and stuff. So I said, okay. So I did that, and I was executive director of that. And I really, really enjoyed. We saved a lot of animals. And to this day, I tell my mother, I said, I don't care what I achieve in my life. I want on my tombstone to say, the greatest thing Raychel ever did was save the lives of these dogs. Because I really think that's the greatest thing that I will ever have done, no matter what, regardless of any kind of technological advancement or monetary gain or anything like that. And so, but what happened was, and in that time I was consulting a lot as well on the side. However, what happened was that individual didn't keep their end of the bargain. So I ended up having to take on the entire rescue, which is fine. I did, but there you have it. Sometimes, you know, things don't go the way, you know, sometimes people just abandon their commitments, and I could not do that, not with these babies.
Oh, so you still have that animal rescue?
Yeah, I still have them. I don't operate the organization, but I took over them. Yeah, I just took over them because I thought we can't just abandon them. Yeah.
No, well, that's so wonderful to hear. I mean, animals are pure love, and as we mentioned before we started recording, they are just they give us unconditional love, and they don't have a voice, and it's admirable that you would be their voice, and I think that's so wonderful. And it says a lot about you as a person, which I think is just very altruistic and just amazing. Thank you so much for doing that for these beautiful dogs. So after that, how long into you beginning SPHYNX Brand? That is your current company. First of all, I gotta say, you are a true entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur. You have that pioneering spirit. So it's apropos that you would be in this amazing forward-thinking space of blockchain and crypto. What led you to that? And when did you start the SPHYNX Brand?
Well, you know, I was around during the dot-com boom, and I, in some ways, was able to take part in it and take advantage of it. But I wasn't an early adopter in the sense of, I wasn't one of the sort of early adopters that got to shape how that culture developed and what direction that, we call it Web2, Web2 culture went. And more, I think what I began to see was that it was going in a direction that I thought was not good for the younger people, and I care a lot about the younger people, the people who are in their, like, from early 20s to, you know, up to my age, or even, but especially the people who are younger, because what I began to see was this, what I call the Instagram narrative, which is the and it's a false narrative, which is the and I like to, this is how I explain it, which is like, for those of us who went to school, it's like, remember the kid in class who said, oh, I didn't study, I didn't study at all, but they always got an A+. But they said they didn't study, they never studied, but they always got an A+. And it's like, you know, they studied. And it's just like, and this is like the Instagram culture was developing, this Web2 culture rather, was developing to be a very, very, just a very exaggerated part of that visually, in every way. So basically it was like, hey, look at my creation, ta-da. It was like, I had, this was effortless. And I think what that was doing was it was killing so many people's attempts to try. And I have a shirt that says, I didn't wake up like this, you know, and I wanted to, you know, when I was going to school and when my parents, the values that my parents instilled in me was, you know, and when we were growing up, my friends' parents was, no, we value hard work. We value trial and error. We value consistency. Those things should not be erased. Those things should be part of the track record. Those attempts, right, should be part of the resume. Those should be part of the narrative. So what I wanted to do was to, as an early adopter of Web3, and this is primarily the reason I got into Web3, not just because of the technology, was because I wanted to have a role in how the culture goes with this, and I didn't want it to be the same as before. I really want to try to go back to this concept of, hey, yes, I have achieved this, but I want to tell you what it took. This is what it took. I worked hard. I studied hard. I fell down a few times. A couple times I didn't think I'd get back up. One time somebody helped me get back up. I bruised a couple knees. I broke a shoulder, you know, and half the time I didn't see light at the end of the tunnel. But you know what? That was my journey. And I want people to be proud of that, because I want people to start to value their experiences again, instead of this false narrative that, hey, it was effortless. Yeah, I just got up and there was this Fortune 500 company wanting to do a deal with me. It doesn't work that way. And if it does, it's probably because your parents know someone or something, which I have no problem with that. You know, I've been afforded advantages because of my parents as well. I haven't, you know, it's, my story is not like a rags to riches story, but I still know that, you know, it's not reality. And there's a couple of things, you know, I used to say fear kills more dreams than failure ever did. And that fear, a lot of times, you know, is fear within itself. But that a lot of times what this Web2 culture did was it made that fear bigger. Like, how can I possibly do that if that person just did it so effortlessly? And I just want the narrative to change, to say, no, it's hard work, and that's good. I want to bring value back to hard work.
I love that. That, I have to say, your mindset is completely in line with mine. You are, once again, a true serial entrepreneur. You're a problem solver. You see issues in the world and you want to make positive social and cultural changes. And seeing that, and I have to tell you, we see that on Twitter, we see it all over social media, and people are only flashing their wins. And they're showing, oh, they make it look so easy. And that discourages the vast majority of people. So I say it's all about truth and transparency. And we want to have authenticity, and we want people to be accountable. And the truth is, I love Carol Dweck. I'm sure you read about her book, Growth Mindset. And she talks about how anything is possible. You just have to have that mindset that you can do it. If you work hard and you put in the effort, anything is possible. And I believe that, and it's that empowered mindset. And I feel that's what your mission is. And
Yeah.
it's such a noble thing that you see that, and you first of all, you're aware, and you identify these issues that are hurting the collective culture of people. And it's actually, it's hurting us, the younger generation, like you said. And, they feel that if it doesn't come easy, that they can't do it. And they don't even try. And it's definitely a serious issue nowadays. And the fact that you're working on that is amazing. And I love that, Raychel. It's all an illusion online. It's like, I used to say this about Facebook. They show all these beautiful pictures of vacation and they're all smiling. And I've noticed there was like a research done that said the people that do that tend to be the most unhappy. And they're just showing this side that's actually just a pure illusion. And then what it does is it makes all the other people feel worse about their lives. And they say, oh, look how happy they are. I'm just so unhappy. And it's like this whole negative cycle. And instead, we need to speak about reality and what's really going on. And look, everyone has their own challenges. There's this famous quote that says, be kind, for everyone is fighting their own battles. And there's a few people that have said that, but it's so true. Everyone has had their challenges and everyone's fallen down, everyone's failed. So the fact that you want to expose that is wonderful. So thank you so much. So let's take that. And so that passion that you have to bring authenticity to the world, how did that put you with the blockchain? What was that connection there, that catalyst?
Well, I happened to, learn about blockchain technology relatively early on. So I thought, I can maybe be part of part of the sort of movement at a cultural level. So, and one of the things that I loved about blockchain technology is that everything is on chain. You can see what happens. There's no erasing history. There's no denying history. There is no, for instance, those who are familiar with regular, we often refer to Web2 as in that means sort of, that's the lingo that we use in Web3, but that's sort of referring to anything that's non-Web3, meaning like any ordinary business prior to blockchain. But, I can give you an example. If you have a private company, for instance, that starts and then, let's say within a year, I don't know, they close up shop or let's say they just say that, okay, we sold out of these. Well, with blockchain, you can't do that because you can see what's sold, what hasn't. So you can see if they've sold out. You can see what has sold, what hasn't. So it kind of keeps people honest and everything is on chain. And I really like that because there's less of the playing around with numbers that we can do to make ourselves look better than we are. And I really liked that. I also liked the smart contract element of having a system in place where, you know, certain things, if certain conditions are met, then something, you know, is triggered. Almost like this: if X, then only Y. So if you think if X, then Y. So a smart contract says if some condition is met, then this will happen. The reason that's one of the reasons that's really that I like that is because it makes the process as objective as possible, right? But you've set the conditions prior to personalities getting involved. So the conditions are set, and really the personalities come and conform to the conditions. Whereas, again, prior to that, well, you know, we sort of like decide on when and how we do something. I like blockchain because it takes us out of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
That's not in an AI way at all, because we set the conditions before. It's not anyone else. Humans do it. But we agree before, you know, before circumstances come in where we're like, oh, you know, let's change this so we can, you know, get some more money here. You stick to the principles of the smart contract, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm a real advocate of sticking to principles, and that's one of the things in my in SPHYNX Brand that I, you know, really urge with the marketing and branding is, if you don't know your principles, no technique that I tell you will help you, because you're going to be just like going everywhere. If you know your principles, right, you're going to have a direction, a vision. You're going to know where you're going. Things will be much easier. Things will seem much more automated. Things will seem much more just simpler, if that makes sense. But I love the technology. I love the ownership as well that it provides. Well, we can get into NFTs later, but
Mm-hmm.
basically the smart contracts and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. Yeah.
I love it. I agree with you. I love all that. Thank you for explaining it in that way. The objectivity is key. Now, we have
Yes.
preset conditions, and as humans, we have biases and heuristics that come up in the process of our decision making, and we don't follow the principles always. And so when you have a smart contract and you have objectivity with preset conditions, like you said, that makes the decision-making process more efficient and sound. Now, our goal is always to improve the accuracy of our judgments, so we make choices that have a higher expected value. But in system one thinking, which is that fast automatic thinking, we tend to have a lot of biases, and there's a lot of opaqueness as well. And then we have bandwidth constraint. So we have this overabundance of information, and we need to minimize noise. And Herb Simon, who's the father of behavioral economics, and that was a field I studied, said that a wealth of information provides a poverty of attention. And basically, our decision making is compromised. So with these smart contracts that follow through with these conditions, to me, makes a lot of sense. And I also find it very fascinating. You know, I want to just touch upon your concept about learning and how it's like you're an autodidact and you're just learning as you go, and you're studying, and you know, you're always adapting, modifying. And that's exactly how I am. I'm just learning as I go. And you know what? Mistakes happen, we learn and we improve. And that's how we grow, right? And we're growing and learning all the time. And I can tell you, I'm a different person than I was 6 months ago, and even more different than I was a year ago. I never thought I would be on this podcast journey a year ago. And here I am, and I'm interviewing amazing people like you that are just, Raychel, you're so inspiring. And I always had a good
Oh,
vibe
thank
on
you.
you.
So are you.
Thank you. I always had a good vibe on you from the beginning. And this is so awesome just talking to you about this. And you're so brilliant and you bring up so many great points. And it's your tenacity and your drive. We can all learn from that. So biases like sunk cost, that's a big one that affects our decision making. And opportunity cost, we have the availability heuristic. And I'll just mention one example, like the movie Jaws, right? People were afraid to go into little shallow areas of water because of that movie. Did it make logical sense? No, there's no shark that comes to the shore. I mean, we don't have great whites that swim to the beach, but because of that movie, when people go in the water, it's that quick example that comes to mind and they get afraid. And it's those own personal biases that come up and heuristics. So by being objective, like you said, with the smart contract, it becomes not only more efficient, but we tend to have better, the judgment is avoided, those biases are avoided, and we have a greater expected value and consistency, which is key. So great points there.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So how did you come up with the name Sphinx?
So Sphinx, the Sphinx in Egypt, the Egyptian Sphinx is this sort of like mysterious, wise kind of creature, right? But I spell it with a Y because I didn't want to just copy it. So I was looking because everybody on Twitter has in Web3 anyway, on Web3 Twitter has generally a different pseudonym, so I thought, okay, I need to come up with something that is catchy and stuff. And so I came up with Sphinx because I thought it was a little bit alluring and stuff. And that's really how I came up with that, but no other reason. But to be quite honest with you, a lot of people can't say it. So I've had many people be in spaces and say like Phoenix or, I don't know, but like, so sometimes I'm just like, oh brother, but I like the name, so.
Yeah, I like it too. It's very original. I love your NFT image of the Sphinx as well. I think that's pretty cool. So tell us what SPHYNX Brand is all about, please.
So SPHYNX Brand is basically we focus on helping companies, brands out there who want to get into Web3, who want a Web3 strategy, do it the right way, essentially. So basically, if I can again liken it to the .com era, you didn't just get a website back then and then call it a day. And similarly, a lot of brands tend to think, let's have an NFT collection. That means now we're in Web3. But that's not the way to do it. That's not a holistic, effective Web3 strategy. That's not what's going to get you in the game and get you ahead. So what we do is we come up with a comprehensive strategy specifically tailored to each brand that will position them well within their markets and in Web3, to do well in Web3. So, what we do is we talk about, like, if their NFT project, if they do want to have an NFT project, we talk about where that will fit within their overall Web3 marketing strategy, branding strategy. We talk about how they can build community, how they can develop within the community, and what their long-term goals are. But more I also, one of the things that I do, and I've made a lot of friends doing this, is I'm very candid with a lot of the brands that want to hire me. And you know, I don't just want to get hired, but I tell them, you know, I would not recommend just having an NFT collection and calling it a day. That would not be good for your brand. So if you want to get in it, get in it. But if you don't want to get in it, don't, because the community is not very doesn't, you know, they'll call you a rugger, they'll call you a, you know, they're, so it's just, so I like to, sometimes I tell people, you know, why don't you rethink if you really want to do this, you know. And then sometimes, you know, one time somebody came back 3 months later and said, I think now I want to do this, you know. But that's what we do. That's what we do. And sometimes that involves connecting with other, connecting them with blockchains, whether it's L1s, L2s. Sometimes it's, you know, setting them up with, you know, their infrastructure so that they can build their communities around an NFT launch. And sometimes, you know, they want to build a metaverse, not a metaverse. I can't believe I said that.
Okay.
I don't know. You know what? That's so funny because I have to tell you, the reason that's funny. Wait, let me just say, sometimes they want to build a meta world in the metaverse. So I laughed because I said a metaverse. And I really get on people in Twitter spaces because everyone says a metaverse, okay? And there's no such thing as a metaverse. There's only one metaverse, and that is all encompassing. Yeah. So Decentraland, Sandbox, everyone who thinks they're building a metaverse is building a meta world within the metaverse. And then I just said metaverse. So anyway, I laughed about that. But yeah, so depending on what niche they're in and what they want to build, that's what we do.
That's awesome. So it makes sense. Meta world, it's very analogous to the world. So we have all these planets, we're all different worlds, and there's only one universe. So accordingly, there's only one metaverse. So it's the metaverse. So
exactly.
Right? Okay, good. Yes. I got that down.
Very good. Very awesome. Good.
Thank you. So you help businesses that are online or brick and mortar right now make that transition, or to have a brand, have their brand in the blockchain and the metaverse and all that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Awesome.
So we talk to them. We see, depending on what sector they're in, whether they're in retail, whether they're a larger brand or smaller brand, whether they want to, for instance, if they're in retail, if they want to do a have people enter their stores inside the metaverse. You know, that's cool. Starting to happen now. So yeah, but that requires, you know, a holistic strategy.
Absolutely,
that's
holistic.
You know, so you may sell NFTs to give people access to that, right? But you can't just, it's not just let's sell NFTs and call it a day. So it's depending on what sector they're in, what their goals are. We find out what they want from their exposure in Web3, and then once we hone that down, we develop a strategy for them.
Exactly. I always talk about like a bottoms up, like a goals oriented approach. So what they want, you work with their goal, and then you work your way back with the strategy. And I love how you say holistic, because to me, in my investing, life, thinking, everything, it's always a blend of everything. We live in a multidisciplinary world, and we have everything is encompassing. There's a bunch of moving parts that are always moving. And since the metaverse is analogous to our universe, you know, it makes sense that you would have to factor in this holistic, complete view. So very interesting stuff. So let's get started. Before we go into, your Sphinx Club and all that, I think we should explain to people, the whole NFT blockchain. And let's start with the most popular, Bitcoin. So, in your opinion, do you think Bitcoin is digital gold and a solution to all these banking crises that we're having and this potential debasement of fiat currency?
I'm going to give you the simplest answer.
Yes.
Yes.
That is simple.
You know what? We call Bitcoin the Big Daddy.
Yes.
And, it is quite volatile, as crypto is. But one thing that I will want to make clear is Bitcoin is not crypto and crypto is not Bitcoin. Bitcoin is in a class by itself. I'm not invested in crypto. I'm invested in Bitcoin. There's a difference. And I'm very, very particular with how I invest money. I do not like extra risk. I have people that depend on me, four-legged people that depend on me. So I don't, the more and more that I've learned about the crypto just ecosystem, the more I'm tending to agree with the Bitcoin maxis, to be honest with you. Although I believe that Ethereum and all these other blockchains, they have a purpose, right? They have a purpose with respect to the smart contracts, for example, on Ethereum or Solana. It's not that they don't have a purpose, but when it comes to investing or immutability or permanence, there's only one big daddy, and that's Bitcoin. So there is a lot of volatility, and the same rules apply with respect to not investing more than one can lose. And I would say the volatility that's so different than the stock market, one needs to be aware of. I mean, it can go up and down it can go up and down 10% in a day. So that's 5-10% is, that can be quite a bit. But the NFTs on Bitcoin are actually a very new thing that we're excited about, and we can talk about also if you'd like.
Absolutely, thank you. It is the granddaddy, or whatever you said, the daddy of all, the big daddy, Bitcoin, and I tend to agree as well. Now, the volatility, do you believe that it will subside in the near future and it'll become a bit more stable as it's widely adopted, and these will change maybe in the next 3 to 5 years?
I can't say, because the next 3 to 5 years, I don't know if there will be that much adoption where the volatility will significantly go down, to be honest. But will it?
Maybe 10 years?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
And you think it might become the main currency used over fiat?
I absolutely believe so. Although, I'm kind of a nerd, and I like to read the executive orders that come out of the Treasury Department and the White House. And so I know that for a while now, the Treasury Department and the White House have been talking about USDC. So as a United States digital currency, it has involvement with the central bank, and that if the U.S. currency goes digital, right, which they are going to do, and one thing I will say is, there is so much on Twitter Spaces, for instance, there's so much speculation. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? And I'm constantly saying, they're telling us it's in the executive orders. There's no mystery. they're coming out with a digital currency. The US government is coming out with a digital currency. It's right there in the executive order. They said it's not immediate, but it's in the near term. So when that happens, I don't know how that will affect things. But that is in the horizon. What they said in March was, sorry, September, last September was in the near term. So of course I went digging. So what does the Department of Treasury mean by near term? Everyone's
subjective term, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's within a few months, right?
Oh.
So to me, near term was like, okay, within a few years, a couple of years, but no, it's a few months. So who knows? But I do believe that's coming, as they've said it is, but I don't know how that'll affect Bitcoin and adoption. But I think that Bitcoin will continue to be really adopted more and more regardless.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We love nerds. I'm a nerd too. I'm also a nerd. So it's good. Nerds rule the world, right? That's great. I tell that to my sons. I always like, it's good to be a nerd. So thank you so much, Raychel. So tell us, what is the Bitcoin Ordinals standard?
Okay, so this is a whopping like 4-week-old thing. Okay, I mean, this is really new, and
wow, you're on the forefront of all this. This is amazing.
I mean, this is so exciting. I have not done anything else since I've been doing this stuff other than this. And basically, here's the thing. The Bitcoin ordinals are essentially, to put it in just, basic terms, NFTs on Bitcoin, which we never really had before, not in this way. We had them on Ethereum, we had them on, other chains, Solana, we had smart contracts. But what this is the ordinals, and the reason they're called ordinals and not NFTs, they're actually, technically they're digital artifacts, right? Why? Well, one of the reasons is because everything is on chain. So with an NFT on Ethereum, for instance, there's a pointer to like IPFS or another platform. But with Bitcoin, everything is on chain. So there are significant differences. Now, why is that exciting? Why is it exciting to have NFTs on Bitcoin? Well, first of all, it's Bitcoin. Like, that's something. Second of all, there's a limited number of Satoshis. So there are 100 million Satoshis per Bitcoin. There's a limited number of Bitcoins, meaning there's a limited number of Satoshis. If you inscribe those, you are indeed making them into digital artifacts. So now, why would that be interesting? Well, let's say whatever art you were going to put on an NFT, by the way, whatever, by art, it can be anything. It can be a document, it can be a manifesto, it can be anything. It doesn't have to be a picture, an image. But whatever content you were going to put on that Ethereum NFT, you can put it on Bitcoin. And here's the thing, in 1 billion years from now, if the Earth is still going, right? If we didn't blow each other up, it's going to be there. But we don't know that about these other NFTs. We don't know that. And this is truly immutable. Also, NFTs on other blockchains, they can be taken down. Bitcoin cannot, these cannot be taken down. One of the things that I did was, I've been sort of following the atrocities in Iran with the women life freedom movement. And they've been like executing kids now. And so one of the things I did, one of the things that they do is they commit these atrocities, and then they say it never happened. And so when I started to inscribe, I said, you know what? They can't deny it anymore, because I'm going to inscribe what they're doing. So one day I saw a video. There was a girl, and I can tag you in the tweet. There was a girl, she's literally covered from neck to toe, literally from neck to toe, but her hair wasn't covered. I think she was 6 or somewhere around 6 years old. And there's a video of her, and I watched it, and somebody had come and struck her. She was just bloody. She was just sitting there on the curb. Somebody came and struck her for not covering her hair. A 6-year-old. And so I was so appalled. I watched the video and I took a screenshot of it. And that video, that screenshot, I inscribed onto the Bitcoin blockchain. So I became an ordinal. And what I wrote was, this is, I wrote what happened, and I wrote, this can't be denied anymore. And I basically wrote a description of that she had been struck. And I wrote, like, this is my evidence of what happened. It can't be denied anymore. An activist saw that ordinal, a very well-known activist saw my tweet of that. And she tweeted the same image, and it got millions of views. And I was just blown away. And this is somebody who, like, I admire so much. And so for anyone, the permanence of what's on these ordinals has so many implications. So yes, we can do it for profit. We can do it for all these things, but we can also do them as a way of not getting censored. If anyone's ever been censored, inscribe what you want on the Bitcoin blockchain. It will never be taken down. It cannot be taken down by anyone, no one. So once I realized this, and I was just like, oh wow, now I'm gonna have to make all this money so I could just like do this and other nonprofit stuff. I was just like, okay, calm down. But anyway, to get back to basics, it's very new, and it doesn't require everyone, but I decided to go full speed and just step right in. So I actually now operate a full Bitcoin node. So I'm operating a Bitcoin node myself, and I am inscribing myself, and the building on the Bitcoin, and it's very, very exciting, very exciting.
What exactly does it mean? What does a node mean? So a node, okay, so Bitcoin is decentralized. So there are different nodes. And basically it's different stations, right? Computers like I am, right? So we have to have consensus. So different nodes, like I'm here, I have a node, like this computer is a node. So I contribute to the Bitcoin blockchain as well, which is really cool. But for this purpose, what I did was you download the entire blockchain, into your system, and then you do some programming stuff, and then you're essentially able to inscribe yourself, meaning I don't have to pay an inscription service to do it for me. I can do it myself. In fact, I do it myself. And what's really cool, and what I try to say to people in these spaces, is I am not a developer. I am not a tech person. I try to tell people this. You can do this. Anyone can do this. You just need the space on your laptop. The UX is, we're trying to improve, but I am not a developer. So the fact that
I'm running my own node and I'm inscribing myself, putting these commands in myself, first of all, I got a lot of help. But second of all, anyone can. You don't even have to buy anything really. If your computer has enough space in it, storage in it. But once you do that, you are now also contributing to the system. And that's what happens when it's peer-to-peer, right? So now I'm a peer and I can contribute to the system. So what we're having is, now there are these platforms that are starting to come out because they're seeing opportunities in making money, which is totally fine. But Bitcoin is meant to be trustless, right? It's supposed to be a trustless system. So meaning peer-to-peer is ideal. But because this is so new, we're finding that, it's not as retail friendly. Like not everyone is going to download their own node and operate their own node. Some people just want to go to a website and get something inscribed on the Bitcoin blockchain. So anyway, there are things in the works, and one of the things that I'm working on is a platform that will let projects, founders and artists that have projects on other platforms essentially transfer all of their collections to Bitcoin, and then basically, so that they are secure and not lose any of their utilities or anything like that, and we will verify them. We're going to do that for one artists and also projects, so generative projects. So I just think that that's that's something that's going to be helpful.
This is amazing. Thank you. I have a few questions here. First of all, I find it just, the avoiding censorship issue is huge. And the fact that it can be permanent when you inscribe it this is revolutionizing everything. And I love that. And would you say the NFTs right now that we know of, the non-fungible tokens and all that, that's on the ETH, is that correct? That's on that
platform?
That's
on Ethereum. Yeah,
and how does this, so is this because it's Bitcoin that it's the different, what I guess my question is, what are the differences? It seems that this has advantages over the regular NFTs, and you're in the process of helping people transfer from that platform to the Bitcoin. And these are, would you call these Bitcoin NFTs? Is this the same? Is that a synonym?
People are calling, yes. So the Ordinals are essentially Bitcoin NFTs. Okay. That's what people are calling them. But so right now there are different blockchains. There's Polygon, there's Cardano, there's Solana, and Ethereum. Ethereum is the biggest one right now. But all the other blockchains also have NFTs.
Okay.
And not to say that, and this is the point that I like to make in spaces as well, this doesn't render all of them, void or unnecessary. Not at all. But these on Bitcoin are all on chain. Each NFT is on chain, and that is a level of security that I think people should have. Meaning, like, your NFT is secure. It's always going to be there, rather than a pointer to some other platform that can get taken down at any time. So I think right now, if anyone's interested in anything having to do with NFTs, I think right now is probably, for me, the most exciting time by far, because I think this is going to take over. It is already taking over, but also if the Fed says that everything except for Bitcoin is a security, all bets are
Yeah,
off. Like it just,
exactly. So,
yeah. And
yeah,
then,
so question I have, the node, okay? So now anyone can do this. Anyone can put it on their computer if they have the space. So they can get a node and they can begin inscribing on their own. Is that correct?
yes.
Amazing.
And
So anyone can.
that's correct. And what happens is there is a process where you go and you download Bitcoin Core. That takes several hours depending on your speed. And then we put in some commands and then you start to index. That takes several hours. And then we just take you through and you with some other commands. And then you just have to, it's going to be, if you're not a coder like me, if you're not a developer, it's going to be new. So you're going to be like, okay. But you get the gist of it. Like you'll know what to put in, where to put it in. You just sort of copy and paste. I put in like the code in a Word document and I just copy and paste it into the terminal, so it's just that's it. That's really it. That is really it. I have learned so much in the last month. I learned more in the last month than maybe in the last year combined.
Well, I just learned in the past 15 minutes, I've learned more than I've learned in the past month. This is brilliant. This is amazing, Raychel. Thank you so much for sharing this, because I'm going to look this up now and I want to get a note.
Oh yeah.
I want to know.
Oh, you know what? I will tell you, if you have any interest in getting a node, and operating a node, you should feel very empowered to do so. And one of the things I can tell you, the Sphinx Club is, we have a Discord that's going to be opening. That's the Bitcoin Royals. Okay. And so in there, I'm going to be helping onboard people to get as involved as they want at various levels. So I really want to empower anyone who wants to operate their own node, because I do think there are a lot of people who are kind of pushing people along to these services, right? And I think that's okay. That's okay. But if someone is interested in operating their own node, I just want them to know that they can.
Yes.
It's
and you're
not
a full you're a full Bitcoin node operator, correct?
Yes.
And you're developing Ordinals protocol.
Yes.
Love that. That's awesome. So is your NFT brand, your Sphinx brand, is that on the blockchain now? Could you tell us about that? Is it on the blockchain, and is your Discord room open, or it's in the process of opening?
The Discord is in the process of getting open. I'm looking for a couple of mods before I open it, because I don't want to be flooded. I'm so swamped that I don't want. This has gotten so much attention, this Ordinals thing. I just don't want to open it up and not be able to service people correctly. So I need to find a few moderators.
A moderator. Okay.
Yeah. So so basically it's the Bitcoin Royals is a Discord where people can go and they can see, first of all, they can get updates on the platform that we're developing for the Ordinals. They can talk with other people about this stuff who are learning.
It's a community.
Yeah, it's a community of people who want to learn this stuff. We have demos in there. We'll have demos in there, and we'll have different, some people might want to just know how to download a wallet and use an inscription service. That's fine. Some people want to download a node or operate a node. We'll do that too. And then also, one of the things is, I'm a member of the Order Cord, which is these are the guys who taught me how to download this stuff and operate this stuff. So I really would like to be able to send people over there, if possible, So I really just want to really be a conduit, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and you're spreading
Yeah. So
awareness. Your
yeah,
mission is to do so much good, and I love that. And that's the purpose today. I want to help spread the awareness of all these amazing technologies that are available to people. Now, inscribing, that word, is that similar to minting? Is that like a smart
it
contract?
is. It is similar to minting. There's no smart contract involved here in Bitcoin, but it is essentially parallel to minting. Yes, it is
Awesome.
the process. Yes, it is for
Good.
Bitcoin what we do to get that
Mhm.
content onto
Okay.
the blockchain.
Great, because I think most people are familiar because it's been around a while. I'm familiar with the NFT, and we'll go into NFTs as well, the minting process. So with inscribing, do you also have the capability of having royalties, like NFT royalties?
So we actually do not, but here's the thing. This concept of royalties is has become a very hot topic within the NFT community as well, aside from Bitcoin. And essentially, I can tell you that the thinking in the Bitcoin community is kind of reflecting the overall thinking, I would say, in the greater Web3 community, which is, no matter what you think about, should we get royalties or not, they're not enforceable. So we're running into, like, Bitcoin is very just straight to the point, and it's not enforceable. And we're seeing that on OpenSea, we're seeing that on all these platforms, right? We're seeing that. And so with Bitcoin, it's just very clear. There are no royalties, and if you ask any Bitcoin maxi, they'll say it's not enforceable. And you can look at everything that's happening on Ethereum and stuff. So do I think that artists and creators should get royalties? Yeah, but it's not enforceable. Like, you can see even on Ethereum and stuff, people are getting around paying royalties. So
Very interesting. Do you think that maybe things will change? Maybe with this Bitcoin NFT, they'll find a better way to make sure that they get that royalty, or you think they're done with that and they're going to probably find another way to compensate these artists and creators?
you know I don't think it's going to come in the way of Bitcoin, but I've always felt like royalties are good for the artists, for the creators. I understand that a lot of people are against them, but for instance, a friend of mine is a Grammy nominated singer. She's very talented, and she could have a deal with a record label, but she chooses to be in Web3 and put her songs out in NFTs. Two of my friends, actually. But I don't think it's fair for her not to get royalties. I mean, she would get something with a record deal, right? She would. So anyway, my point is, it's like, I think more needs to be done on it, but if they're not enforceable, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
I don't know what will happen. But I will say that one of the things that people got upset about was these generative projects would come out with the 10,000 piece collection, for instance, and they would make a killing right at the mint, and they would sell out in 2021 and stuff. They would sell out right away, make millions of dollars in the mint. And then they'd get, 10% royalties. And I think the sentiment started to shift when people were like, why are they getting 10%? Like, what are they doing? What are they doing for this? We're continuing to pay them for nothing.
Mhm.
So there's a little bit of this greed element that people started to resent. But I don't think that justifies cutting out creator royalties for, legitimate creators. But we'll see how that goes. I think there's more to be studied about that, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so. I've been speaking with an artist who I actually had on the podcast about NFT music, and she was very interested and she was trying to go that route because she liked the idea that when that NFT was transacted at a later date, she would have some type of passive income, some royalty attached to her music with that NFT. So I think, yeah, I think it would be nice if they could continue to be compensated. There's a lot of issues, like remember Napster back in the day,
Yeah.
and all this free music, and then the artists were upset about that. And I didn't follow that story too closely, but I did recall that there were a lot of concerns over, pirated music and, artists not being compensated. So that's another reason why this royalty, NFT royalty was interesting. And a few of the artists that I know are very interested in using it. So we'll have to see what happens with this Bitcoin. But I find it very fascinating, this new Bitcoin NFT or ordinals that you call it.
Yeah, and the point I like to make is, again, it's not here to replace Ethereum or Solana NFTs. It's just something different. It's a way for us to innovate. So there's going to be things that smart contracts over on the other blockchains can do better, and they should be preserved over there. But where we can be more innovative, over here, that's cool too. So
very cool. We can all coexist, right?
Exactly.
We can all coexist, and they're all different things for different people. And I find this new technology fascinating as well. So we're on the same page. So you know what? I'd like to go to something. It's a big question that might require a big answer, but what is blockchain? Could you just tell us in a simple way? We've been talking about it, but let's just address the pink elephant in the room.
Okay. So, okay. Well, so basically, the blockchain is essentially what it is sometimes I think about how best to describe this, because I've given this talk to kids, and I try to make it so that they can understand.
So that's the whole point of raising awareness, is that an expert like you who lives this can explain it to all the people, so we can help spread that awareness and understanding.
Right. So blockchain is essentially a chain, right? If I could even draw it, is a chain. I mean, is a bunch of blocks. Can you see this? Can you see this?
Yes.
Here's a block. It's connected to another block with a chain. So this is, I'm going to put G. The first one is always called the Genesis block. And this will be the second one. And this is another chain.
Professor Sphinx.
So the block, what's in here? So this is all essentially, what is this? This is all online stuff, right? Web stuff, right? Well, what is it? So this is all data. These are all transactions, okay? So the blockchain is essentially a revolutionary way for us to categorize and store data that represents transactions. Now, why is that fascinating? What's a transaction? A transaction, a lot of people think, okay, a sale. You sell something, I buy it. We don't have to have intermediaries. That's fascinating. Yes, it is. It is. However, that's not the only type of transaction, right? A transaction can be, you send me an email, I receive it. That's a transaction. Transaction can be, I reply, you receive it. That's a transaction. Why is that important? Because these transactions on a public blockchain can be very important when transparency is important. One of the things that I'm studying is, for instance, the peer review process in science is a very, very centralized, has been very centralized this whole time. And it's entirely determined by the editors of these journals. So what happens is basically that in the peer review process, the individuals who are going to read these studies, right, have no idea what happens behind the scenes. And what happens is, from the moment that an article is submitted to a journal to the point where it's published, the entire process is controlled by the editors of these journals. But what blockchain can do, right, is blockchain can make all of those transactions, put all of those transactions in these blocks that are public. What are those transactions? The transactions are, for instance, this person submitted a paper to this journal, all right? Now, the editor has submitted it for review. Now, let's see, several editors, several reviewers are going to review it. Why is that important? What's a transaction? Let's say a reviewer makes some comments about this article, this study, and says, you know, there's a problem with this part of this study. That's a transaction. When a reviewer says to the article author, part of this doesn't look right, you have to go fix it. Right now, we don't know. But when it's in a public blockchain and recorded as a transaction, we can see, and there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean the article's not right or the study's bad, but people should be able to see the process that it took. There should be transparency. And what happens is, that's really where innovation happens, okay? And a lot of times, you know, we don't really, other scientists and whatnot aren't really able to gain as much because there's no reproducibility within science, really. So this allows it to be reproducible because any study, any comment that's made, we can see. So if a study comes out, right, and it's this mind-blowing study, well, okay, we can go back and look on the blockchain of every transaction, every interaction that was had. Okay, so they had to go back 5 times to redo the tests. So what's going on there? So the point being that the blockchain is how is a different way of presenting and storing data online. In public blockchains, we can do that publicly. And every transaction, each block is filled with a transaction, and a transaction can be anything between two parties. And once a block has enough transactions in it, it gets filled, it gets linked to the next block. So basically, once we have enough transactions that we can't have any more here, so we get linked to the second one, and so on. And that's essentially what a blockchain is. It's a linked chain of transactions and blocks. So if that makes sense.
Excellent. Professor Sphinx. That's what I'm going to call you. Excellent demonstration and giving us a visual to the discussion. Thank you so much for explaining that. Now we get the same themes over and over again: the accountability, the transparency, the truth. And that's your mission in life, is to bring truth and transparency and ignite social improvement. And this is exactly in line with you. So it all like comes together and it's amazing. And when I look at your visual, and what strikes me with the chain is the connection and how everything is connected. And that's sort of like how we are all one and we're all connected. And that whole peer-to-peer and how you talk about this, like the community and the shared, it's just so beautiful. I have to say there's like an art to it as well. And it's just so beautiful. And the recording, building, it's like you're recording this and you're building upon that. And that's how we grow and we improve. And it's just great. And I find this blockchain fascinating and I love it. And I have to say, I hope others can see this as well, because I think this is revolutionizing the way we live our lives. And this is a real holistic approach to improvement and growing together. Amazing. Thank you for that explanation.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So let's go on to Web3, another big concept, another big topic here, and the major shift. I was around with Web 1 and when we went into Web 2, which was read and write, and now we're going into this shared ownership, this community, and it's a lack of a central controlling authority. It's decentralized. This co-ownership, which I find fascinating. Please tell us your interpretation and how you explain Web3 for all.
So that's right. Web 1 was the read. Web 2 was, we say, read and write. Web 3 is read, write, and own. And the thing is, there's always been own, but the owning has always been done by the central platforms. The innovative thing now is that the ownership now is possible for the individual whose data, who the data is referring to. So that is innovative in the sense that, and it has all sorts of repercussions, in the sense that, you know, from peer to peer, from a decentralized perspective, but also when you think about it, in Web3, you know, and when we have NFTs, I always like to say, NFTs, this is what they do. This is essentially what they are and what they do. They deliver ownership, okay, via the blockchain. That is what they do. Most people think an NFT is a digital piece of art or something. That's not the case. An NFT can be anything, and in fact it is, that delivers ownership using this technology. And in fact, lots of brands are using NFTs to bring ownership back to, you know, individual entities, not only just to people like us, but to brands. For instance, you know, now brands can use these NFTs as the central point of their platforms, instead of relying on these aggregate, you know, centralized platforms, right? So what happens when you have an NFT? I'll just explain with the brands, for instance, and what's going on in the retail industry. We have there's a lot of development going on in retail where they can put these little chips in the clothes, right? And we have always talked about having a circular economy. We've always talked about this whole having a green, you know, green economy, circular economy, not wasting, doing things that's good for the environment. But here's the thing now, what's going to happen is, and it's because of NFTs and because of blockchain, there is actually going to be a circular economy. And it's going to be because of this, because when you get a shirt, it's going to have a tag on it. And once you scan your phone with it, right, it's going to tell you exactly where that fabric came from, exactly. And it's going to permit you to, well, amongst other things, to connect and let that company, if you want, track that shirt, right? If you recycle it. So the point is, for the first time ever, companies, brands are going to be able to have a circular recycle economy process where, like, actually a shirt can end up, a company can say, this shirt, we got the fabric from here and it was recycled here. And it can be an incentive for a consumer to do so, right? Because I don't know, because they're part of a community that wants to help the environment, or because, I don't know, they get a discount for doing that or whatever, or why not? But it's just revolutionizing this. So the concept of ownership with the blockchain is very, very important, and Web3 is a huge part of Web3, and it's really what distinguishes Web3 from the previous types of webs, if you will. And it's really giving a lot of power back to the creator, whether that's you, whether that's me, whether that's a brand. If you're creating something, you're going to get ownership of it. That's important.
Fascinating. So there is some ownership that's attached to the creator through the whole process, and that's fascinating. Now, I have two questions. One is a quick question, probably. When do you think Web3 will be it will take over and we will no longer use Web2? What's your timeline?
Maybe a year.
Wow, that soon? Oh,
Amazon's coming.
wow.
Amazon is getting in. Amazon is stepping into the game.
This is amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, a lot of people are saying 3-5 years away. So 1 year, that's amazing. We better learn this quickly.
Well, I think in 1 year, if you're not in it, you're left behind. But you can still not, I mean, look, you can still not be in it, but if you're trying to be competitive,
yes, exactly. And that will affect, let's say, e-commerce businesses. That will definitely, if they stay in Web2 and they don't upgrade their websites, they're not going to be as competitive as their, you know. So that's important to know as business owners. They must be aware of that. So, okay, so you had that great example about a fabric, a shirt, that you can have a circular, recyclable economy. you said, which was an interesting concept. Now, I guess for some people, they might be afraid. They might see that and say, oh, that's like a little too much information. They're going to know, what if I don't recycle? Or what if I do something wrong or something? I'm going to be accountable. I'm going to be looked at as doing, you know, being bad or something. Are there drawbacks to that? And do you think that's maybe a little too much information on people?
Yeah. First of all, you don't have to register it, right? You don't have to, like, if you don't register it, you're just gonna,
You
you
can
have
opt
to,
out. You can opt
yeah,
out.
well, yeah, not only that, but you actually have to opt in. I mean, it's not like you get your shirt. It's not like you're in and then you have to opt out. But, you know, if you think it's cool, for instance, let's say you want to see where your Tiffany's diamond came from, right? And you think that's cool, so you want to go see, right? But so you don't need to keep checking like in with them. It's not like that. But so I understand that concern, but it's sort of like, first of all, it's totally optional, but it's also only going to be adopted if it's beneficial to the user. Let me give another example. In a certain presidential race, there was a certain hat that became popular.
Yes, I think we know that.
Right. Now, imagine if those hats, each of those hats had a chip in it, so that everyone who bought one of those, and by the way, this is not uniform. The recyclable goal, everyone has their own goal. You can have your own goal for this stuff, for your NFT. These are just NFT. This is just blockchain technology. So let's say what if everyone who bought those hats could connect with everyone else who bought one of those hats?
That's cool.
Right. And it doesn't have to be just those hats. Imagine any group, any community, and it stops there, meaning you can just create a community. You know, maybe it's just a Twitter group, maybe it's just a Twitter community, maybe it's just, but you can sort of, and it's not a location wise, it's just like you can sort of, you know, it connects you online with them. That is the power of this. It can be, and it should be used the way that it empowers people. So, you know, we think of, for instance, breast cancer survivors. You know, I think it's like a purple ribbon or something. You know, imagine if everyone who has one could be somehow connected. You know,
I love that. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Great examples you bring up. And it's like connection, like I said, that it's like, that's what I saw in your chart. Everything's connected. We're all connected, and it increases efficiency, and it gets rid of the intermediaries, and it just makes everything more efficient and effective. And you're able to connect with people without having to look them up or do this or that, all these different steps. Just by buying the ribbon, like you said, you can connect with others that bought that ribbon, and you're all connected in the same group. It's really cool. I mean, it's fascinating.
It is really cool. And one thing that I will say is, you know, the blockchain allows you to be pseudonymous. So this is not like people knowing who you are or where you live. So when it comes to the blockchain, all you are is an address. Now, if you want to disclose to certain community members who you are, if you want to say that, link that to your Twitter and say, oh, by the way, I'm Sphinx, you know, I'm the one in the spaces, you know, blah, blah, blah. That's your thing. But when it comes to these communities, these individuals within communities connecting, it's just addresses. They're just long numeric, alphanumeric addresses connecting. There's no name, there's no information, there's no nothing. You cannot even, if you do a Google search of the address, like you won't, nothing. So there's like real emphasis. I mean, there's a lot of emphasis on anonymity within the whole crypto space, you know, so it's not like, you know, you're putting in your information and like where you live and stuff.
Yeah, it's a different, thank you for making that point. It's a different thinking.
Yeah.
We need to adopt a different way of thinking. And I always say it's like a different world. It's analogous to this life, but it's like the metaverse to the universe. But we have to change our thinking a little bit. And the fears we have with the way life is now, or with Web 2, doesn't really translate into Web 3 because it's different. They've gotten rid of that issue. It's very safe and secure by having that address, those numbers or letters or alphanumeric, versus having to put in your social security. And, you know, people always think all these different things because that's the way we've had to do things nowadays. Your mother's maiden name, and, you know, it's all these different protocols. But nowadays with this Web3, there's different security protocols. Like you have to keep track of, like I have a cold wallet. So you have to keep track of all these words, right? And it's like all these new things. And it's just a different way of having security than what we've had before. Before it was attached to me, like mother's maiden name and last 4 digits of social security. But now with the way crypto is, it's like a different type of security. And it's not really me disclosing myself. So it
absolutely is not. And I love that you said that, because if you think about it, if we go back to the hat analogy, and it can, by the way, it can be any political party, it could be any color hat, I don't care. Most people are familiar with
that red hat.
If you think about it, if you live in a certain area, right, and you want to hold a rally, let's say, does it really matter the identities of who comes?
No.
Or do you really care that it gets attendance? I really don't care who comes. I just want to know, I just want to link up with other,
with the same interest and same passion.
Yes. So the fact that I could link up with anonymous addresses that I know hold the same views, have the same hat, that will attend or likely to attend the rally, I don't need to know a thing about them. It is a beautiful thing. It preserves anonymity.
And it also eliminates the subjectivity, and it makes it more objective, because you can have personal biases when you meet someone who also has that same hat, and maybe you don't know about that hat, and you meet them and you're like, oh, I don't care for this person. You'll dismiss them. But little did you know that you have a special connection with that hat. And you know what? You would have aligned pretty well, and you would have been harmonious together at that rally. But because you weren't aware of that, and you had your own biases and heuristics, and maybe you had an incident that occurred, you lost that potentially solid connection. So
exactly.
I love that.
And support should be support, right? Support shouldn't matter. Like if I'm having a rally.
Exactly. Or you both had breast cancer, but let's say, and let's say you went to a store and something superficial, you know, something silly. Maybe you were having a bad day and you just were a little curt with someone, and then you just dismissed each other instead of making that connection of sharing something so deep. And that breast cancer or that purple ribbon, that will bring you two together without the personal situations or biases that could arise in a very subjective manner. you're actually very objective and you make that connection, and it's very efficient. There's no, hi, how are you? How are you doing? Getting to know each other. It's, you're for this, I'm for this, together. And and that's where we go. And eliminating all those other superficial things that can rise. Am I getting there?
Absolutely.
Am I getting the point?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that lets us be public about it, meaning we can put our transaction, whether it's financial and stuff, right on the public blockchain, because you know what? It's just alphanumeric. So you know what? Once you and I can see, okay, no, I did pay you. You see, it's right there. And that's really, really important. And the reason it can be public is because, well, no one's going to see our address or our mother's maiden name or anything. And that's really important for transparency. So it's something I'm really excited about.
Love it. I'm excited as well. So I think what we can go into now is DAO. If you could tell us about the DAO, what it stands for and what it means in the Web3.
So a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization, and it's a new type of entity that's born in the Web3 space. That's been very exciting, and it's obviously very new, and in as with everything else in Web3, it's developing and going through some growing pains, I think, but there have been some major successes with it in sort of decentralizing the power structure of entities. So instead of having like a formal board or central entity that makes decisions, we sort of allow the individuals who are part of it to contribute to that decision making. Now, what we've discovered is in the last year is that it's not as easy as it would seem, meaning that, for instance, if you own, your votes are typically weighted, meaning if you own 10,000 tokens and I own one, I'm not going to get as big of a say as you, right? So there are lots of things that we're learning, but the cool thing is that we're making a lot of advances within DAOs, and there are several DAOs that are at the forefront of doing this. And I think that over the next year or so, we're going to see some real improvements in DAOs.
Exciting. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So Web3, DAOs, and now there was a great article you wrote on your Substack, which I encourage everyone to visit and read. You're an excellent writer as well. We'll go over your website before we finish up. But I want to talk about your article about new venture formation. And me being a serial entrepreneur like you and having done this, been in business for 25 years. I guess that dates me, but that's okay. And have formed many businesses over the years. I find this absolutely fascinating. And I loved how you brought up points of you reducing transaction costs, eliminating intermediaries, you remain more objective with the decision making. And, like we've been talking about, reduce subjectivity and personal biases. And I am all about streamlining processes and being in the, finances and the financials. And, I was a CFO for many years and now I'm CEO. And I'm always about streamlining operations and always wanting to increase our market share and, being very strategic. And the big concern nowadays is the reduction in productivity. And we're on a decline with productivity. And we need new technologies to improve that productivity. Autonomous equipment is one of them. And autonomous, period. We need automation. And this seems to solve that challenge. And I am always the one that says, I go back to Stoicism with this. I love reading Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. Epictetus, I love his quotes, my favorite. And challenges always bring forth opportunities. And with this, I have to say, these challenges that we've had in our recent times especially are birthing new industries, and we need them more than ever. And it seems to me these technologies are the solution to all these rising issues that we've had. So please tell us about this new venture formation with Web3.
So what we're seeing is that this technology has, by the beautiful way you just explained it, cutting out intermediaries, cutting out a reliance on acceptance by intermediaries, meaning credit, meaning acceptance by financial institutions, by intermediaries and the fees that they charge. By eliminating all of this, it's helping new ventures not only succeed, but get started. Because, and we spoke about this prior to the show, most people, right, they won't start something if they don't think they can do it. And there are lots of the traditional venture formation system has a lot of hurdles, has a lot of costs, and a lot of expenses. By reducing some of those, by eliminating some of those, people are now seeing that maybe it's possible. And the fact of the matter that I was able to download and run a Bitcoin node without spending anything says a lot. Because if you had asked me if that was possible a month ago, I would have said, of course not. I'm gonna have to go buy a special machine and buy software and this. But this is the essence of peer-to-peer. Okay, this peer-to-peer promotes this. This Web3 wants more people to come to Web3. So it's really what we are doing is we're really trying to show how, by eliminating some of these complexities, some of these unnecessary services and fees, it's actually making it simpler for new ventures to make it. And so that's really kind of helping people think, hey, maybe I can start a new venture, because chances are I might be able to make it.
See, I love how this all goes with this theme that you had, your passion from many years ago about showing the truth, how it's about hard work and how things aren't easy. And people need to be encouraged, not discouraged, because they think, oh, I can't do that. This is actually in line with that whole mindset about eliminating those barriers to entry and allowing more people. It's more inclusive of people being involved and doing things they feel passionate about or want to do. And, that makes for happier people. I always say we're all creators, okay? We are, as humans, right? We are all teachers and we're all creators. We're all fully capable of creating. But why don't people do it? And I think a lot of it has to do with this concept that you talk about, how people think they can't. They think they're not able to. They've been conditioned to think, I'm not an artist. I can't do anything. I'm not able to. Oh, look at that beautiful art. I can't do it. Why? Why are they conditioned to feel this way? Society is reinforcing these self-limiting, destructive, negative thinking. We need to change that thinking And we need to have everyone have an abundance mindset. You know, success is an abundance mindset. I succeed, you succeed, we all succeed together. And actually, that encourages more people to succeed. I do believe that positive thinking, that positive energy is contagious, and it's an abundance. And this all goes in line with that. And I just think it's like all very positive, and it's the way I know things are going to go eventually. We're going to have that mass adoption because this really feels like the right thing. And this is what society needs. And it's like a cure for all these problems and issues and challenges that we've had. And by making people happier and by letting them be fulfilled, and I always talk about that, it's about being fulfilled. It's not about buying things. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to get things here and there, but it's about the experiences and feeling fulfilled, that we were able to do something that we felt passionate about. And by encouraging that, we're getting happier people. And when people are happier, they do more and they help one another.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think
Absolutely.
this is great. I just think this is positive. It's great. And we're spreading that positivity here. So
Absolutely.
very exciting stuff. I'd like to go into NFTs now. We talked about them, about the Bitcoin, but let's talk about the traditional. Can we use the word, is it actually a traditional, the standard NFTs on the ETH and the other Solana, the other platforms, the other cryptos that we talked about. I know it's a revolutionary way to transfer digital asset ownership, but let's talk about this NFT things. It's not just pieces of art, it's things. Just fill us in with all that, please.
Right. So an NFT is basically represents ownership of something, right? That ownership is reflected online. So you can actually it can represent ownership of something that's tangible, a physical item, if you want. Now on these other blockchains, I'm not talking about Bitcoin at the moment. So we've actually had, NFTs of physical property, of real property. So this is all, very, very interesting when we get into the world of, for instance, digital twins and the metaverse. This opens an entire new realm of possibility. And it all goes back to NFTs that are on these chains that operate via smart contracts. So these NFTs, often they are representations of digital art, but they don't have to be, right? They can be even a book, they can be a music video, and they can be a building.
Even a podcast, right? I read NFT podcast.
Exactly. And what we're seeing is if you look at the way brands are using it, like Starbucks, essentially NFTs are going to replace rewards programs. They're already doing it. So anyone who wants to build a community, I mean, this is like, I would say more than 50% of people who approach me, our company, and who want to get into this, they want to use NFTs as a way to build community, which is great. They either like have a podcast, they have a show, they have a something else, right? That they want to increase the community. And even here's my prediction. Even your airline miles are going to one day be NFTs. Yes. Why is that interesting? Why is that valuable? Because guess what? The value of that, imagine one day you want to sell those, sell those. You can't do that today. That that's going to be more valuable to the airline. Okay, because I'm going to suddenly want that NFT, because now it's transferable. Now, guess what? The value is going to go up way more. So these rewards, a lot of people are looking at this the right way, which is, this is how you build community. This is how you do a rewards program. This is how, so that the NFTs, okay, that live on these other chains like Ethereum and Solana, they become the central touch points of anyone, any platform trying to build a community, trying to expand their market share, trying to expand awareness. People will realize this is the way, whether it's through rewards, whether it's through perks, whether it's through access, token gated access. Maybe you have want to start a Patreon and, I don't know, give certain access to different tiers or something. This is the way it's going.
Absolutely. I think we're going to look back to this time period and be like, how could we have existed without this? Just like with cell phones nowadays, I'm like, wait, in high school, I had a beeper actually. And I was like, I didn't have a cell phone. I mean, you couldn't have, back then. And I was like, I think it's going to be the same way with this, like reward. How is that even a rewards program if it didn't have an NFT? Like, how is that a rewards? That's not really a reward, And I think that's what's going to happen, because like, as soon as you change your thinking and we get to be, that's the norm, we're going to be like, how did we exist before that, So Bitcoin NFTs can do the same. You can have that NFT community and you could do a rewards program as well.
That is very new. So that is like weeks old. We're developing on Bitcoin. So that we don't have smart contracts for that, but we're innovating as we speak. So we're doing that on the other blockchains, but I will keep you informed about Bitcoin. If there's a way to do that on Bitcoin. Yeah.
What I love about NFTs, because I study and I read about it as well, is that with the NFT communities, like let's say NFT music, the fans can be part of the creative process. And like it's like a shared community, and they're part of the creation of the, of the music or art or whatever it is. And, I was thinking about NFTs for my podcast, and I like the exclusive early access. And you do NFTs for that. Like, for example, I record a podcast and I usually take about a week and a half to 2 weeks before publishing it. But for the NFT people, the NFT community, we can have an early access that they can see it before anyone else sees it, or before it's published. So they be part of the community for the first 2 weeks to be part of that. So I was thinking of that. I was reading about that. All these different ways of creating these communities.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? And one of the things that, I worked with someone else who does something similar, and, we thought of, there are all these other ways of thinking of how can we make this special for our holders. So for instance, you could sort of do like a behind the scenes.
That too.
For holders, right?
Yeah.
Or one time we did, things that are cut, like bloopers. People love that.
Uncut.
Yeah. So
like we could get your dogs whimpering. The dog's whimpering.
Right, exactly. Or when your guest says a metaverse and is like, ah!
I know, right? We'll get that on the NFT holder.
But there are all these ways that it's a perk. It's a thing, and it's the holders.
Yeah, it's like a real. It's you know what it is, Raychel? It's the real reward program. We're going to look back and say these were never really rewards. They were little things, but the real rewards coming. So fascinating. I love this. Okay. You're the founder and artist of Bitcoin Babies. okay, which are super special babies generated as random NFTs on the Bitcoin blockchain. Now, this must be probably fairly new. Please tell us all about that.
Okay, so here's the thing. The Bitcoin babies are actually not new, and they were initially going to be on Ethereum. But when the market tanked, and it was a project that was ready, and I worked very hard on it, but the market tanked, the NFT market tanked. So I said, you know what? I don't want to push something out just to push it out. So then this thing happened in the last few weeks, and I thought, I have an opportunity to do this on Bitcoin. I think that's what I'm going to do. So I changed it from alien babies to Bitcoin babies. So now I have to change a little bit of the artwork and stuff, like to add some Bitcoin features and whatnot. Which I don't know when I'll find the time to do that, but that'll be information on that will be in the Discord as well.
Love it. I think you and I live parallel lives, because I've been so swamped lately too with the whole creative process of this podcast. So I know the feeling. I wish there was more time. You have so many great ideas. This Bitcoin babies is, I know, right? Yeah, fascinating stuff. And I'm going to be following it closely. And I wish you much luck with all of that. Raychel, there's this whiteboard behind you, and you have some great videos that you tweet, and you look like a total professor, a mathematician. Could you tell us what's on this whiteboard? It's an if-then, which I love, but is this some advanced calculus? What are we doing here?
No, but I'm such a math person. I really miss math.
Me too. I love math. I'm a math person too.
If people would just stick to math, the world would have no problems.
Me too. I think it's the greatest language of all.
So one of the things that I do is I help, I advise projects that have generative NFT projects, right? So when you have a generative NFT project, you have all of these different, you have the image, and the image has different traits, and a trait can be, for instance, background, body, hair, lips, nose, and all of these are going to have different variations. So what that means is when it's generative is once every variation of those traits is perfected and ready, you're going to send it in through the generator, and you're going to get random final images. But what we do to ensure that those images come out as pleasing as possible is we can assign rules. So for instance, let's say you have a yellow hat, and you don't want a yellow hat to be in the same NFT, right, as the same color yellow background, because it just wouldn't stick out. There wouldn't be contrast. I often, for myself, I often like to have a contrasting background than the image color. So then you would do this as a conditional statement, and you would set up a rule that says, if X, then in this case, what I'm saying, you would say if X, then not Y. Or you could have another rule that says, for instance, every time you want yellow hat, you want yellow shoes. You only want yellow shoes. So in that case, you have if X, then only Y. And your X is yellow hat, and your Y is yellow shoes. So if X, if yellow hat, then only yellow shoes. So what does that mean? So this is, you can't really see it, but then the conditional rules apply. So then I said, what that means, if no yellow shoes, you can't have yellow hat. So just sort of walking. I kind of I like this stuff, but it's not really necessary to do NFTs. But if if you kind of like this stuff, you can kind of nerd out with it. But this was me just teaching some people how the rules are related to conditional statements. So that's what that is.
Love it. Professor Sphinx at work. I love it. I love watching your videos as well on there. You look great when you do it. And you're a great teacher. I have to say, you've taught us a lot today. I have learned so much, and I know that we're here to spread the awareness and understanding of these amazing technologies. And I think we've accomplished that. So Raychel, please tell us, we know your plans for the future. It seems like you have a lot on your plate, and I'm sure it's all going to work out amazing because of your mindset. And that's key. I love your mindset. Your empowered, positive growth mindset. And through all these technologies, I think your mission will be accomplished as people know that anything is possible. And you have your quote, you're the only one who decides whether you can or you can't do something. Know what you are and nothing can stop you. I love all that. So please tell us, how can people find you? All your Bitcoin babies, SPHYNX Brand, your Discord that's coming up, and everything, and your website. Please tell us about everything.
Well, the everything is on my link to my Twitter account, because that's where most of NFT crypto Twitter is. We are the Bitcoin Royals Discord will be out soon. There is a sign up form for the beta launch that anyone can sign up for. It's in my pinned tweet right now, and it'll remain in my pinned tweet. It's a Google
Doc, is that correct? It's a Google
Yes,
doc?
yes. And basically, there's there's a Linktree account. There's a Linktree that has the links to all of my where people can reach me. That's on my Twitter. But basically, I will just say, we are developing on this platform, the Ordinals platform, and I hope to have a marketplace or platform that we develop with some proprietary stuff that's going to be helping people. Meanwhile, I really hope to be helping educate people on all of this, as I think that it can really empower people. But definitely, my Twitter is the Sphinx NFT. I don't think it's the easiest to remember, but
and it was Sphinx with the Y. Sphinx with the Y.
Yes, the Sphinx with the Y. And then I'll be linking stuff I'll be posting updates to the Discord as well.
Awesome. Well, you have to keep us posted with everything, because there's some exciting things that you're doing, and this Bitcoin node is amazing. I think what you're doing, you're right on the forefront of this new technology. It's only been out a few weeks or a month or so, and this is very exciting. Thank you so much for taking the time to share all your brilliance with us today and educate all of us on these blockchain and Web3 and Bitcoin NFTs or Ordinals. We thank you, and we send our love to all your beautiful animals. Thank you for all you do for the animals, the dogs, and for sharing your mindset, and keep raising our collective consciousness with your mission. We appreciate you. Raychel, the Sphinx.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you. You're such a great joy to just have on Twitter. Your vibes are great, and you're right. We are so aligned, and it's just been a pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you.